Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to The Usual Suspects. This week, Egypt goes down the Nile. Will her neighbours get wet? The Palestinian papers reveal an ocean's worth of dark arts behind closed murky doors. We look into it. Looking to home, will Theresa May or may not abolish control orders? And there's been some monkey business going on in the Leighton area, and the audience goes bananas. The Usual Suspects, your media fortnightly roundup, and our final say on all the usual suspects. I wonder who they are.
The usual suspects.
Hosni Mubarak, the ailing, slightly awkward
Egyptian leaders see a power splits in half as days and days and days of revolutionary rioting takes its toll. And we'll see what the media say about that, starting with the Daily Tory graph. America's secret backing for rebel leaders behind Egyptian uprising. Very interesting that the right-wing press actually linking American involvement with the uprising, but highly likely as Egypt has been funneled with billions and billions of dollar aid from the States to the Egyptian government, and it's very unlikely that they'll support a leaderless revolution, but we'll take it on the chin. Sunday Telegraph, again a slight progression here, bloodshed on the streets as Mubarak clings to power like a sort of stale leech. Revolt on the Nile, says the Saturday Times rather. Thousands defy a record 16-hour Egyptian curfew, so no khubs full there. Mubarak sacks his entire cabinet, and Haig is again on television saying, don't go to Egypt. Looking inside the paper itself very quickly, the commentary here from Mr. Roger here, that the Arab world echoes the Central Europe's revolutions in 1989, linking it and claiming it to be from a restless Egyptian undercurrent. But that will be yet to be seen. Sunday Times leads to a slightly different take. Egyptian generals urge Mubarak to step down. This is reports that the new vice president, which is the former intelligence head, has asked Mubarak to step down out of public life towards the scheduled elections in early autumn. Egypt in the brinks as tanks roll into Cairo. Very interesting that the Egyptian people don't seem to despise the army as much as they despise the police, as they're seen as the sons of Egypt, whereas the police are seen as the son of you-know-who. Looking to the international press here, the New York Times claims it's a leaderless youth pushing against Mubarak. Again, claiming there's no actual leader per se. And groups like Ikhwan al-Muslimin, as we'll see here in the FT, the biggest opposition in Egypt, and also Mr. Mohammed al-Baradei, the former head of the International Atomic Agency, has actually been claimed to have been stepped back out of public life, seeing where it will lead. But the poor man's under house arrest. And as you can see here on the right, linking it towards the Yemen now, Yemen chants on the streets amidst call for the end of the Saleh regime, which has also been going on for a record 32 years. Not bad. The Yemen, again, your time is up, the demonstrators told their president.
The usual suspects.
With news in Egypt overshadowing other events such as the Palestinian papers, which has been some very serious and murky revelations that have been leaked to Al Jazeera, no doubt, and it claims that the Palestinian negotiators reject claims of a backdoor deal with Israel. This is in relation to claims that the Palestinian Authority, headed by Mr. President Mahmoud Abbas, have actually offered the Israeli government the biggest ever Jerusalem in the history of the Jewish people. Now it's very interesting here because they also claim that, and also they're actually claiming to exclude the estimated 10,000 Palestinian refugees that are not within the Palestine or Israeli borders, no right to stay. This has also been followed up in the Wall Street Journal in the States here. Leaks reveal deeper Palestinian-Israeli ties. This is actually, again, more claims from Al Jazeera saying that the Palestinians are actually given sensitive information to the Americans and to the Israelis as well, in terms of secret installations of the Hamas from Gaza and other sensitive documents that have been seen to be as treasonous in some eyes. Okay, we come to news close to home now, the very serious issue of control orders, of a small element in this wide-ranging series of draconian terror laws legislated by the former Labour government. With the new government, the coalition government, and in particular Theresa May, the new Home Secretary, who are trying to right a wrong in terms of control orders. And the headline leads in The Guardian, May announces end to virtual house arrest in the new look control orders. This is basically a reference to the method where the previous government had legislated for somebody to be virtually housebound for up to 23 hours in some cases, where people have even been suspected of being involved in acts of terror. Well, now, with the Liberal Democrats under pressure to actually deliver on some of their manifesto pledges, they've actually convinced their conservative compadres, you could say, to actually right a wrong. And we see here that the control has been replaced with something called TPIMs, which stands for Terrorism Prevention and Investigation Measures. But unfortunately, with many other changes that have been seen by this new government, there have been many criticisms from many circles. In particular, looking at starting with the new curfews, they've been limited to from 16 hours up until an overnight curfew. But again, this can be done in exceptional circumstances. We also come to issues of exclusion zones to be replaced by forcible relocations, which is just as worse in many senses. There will also be limited access to computer and mobile phones. But again, one will have to hand in their password, for example, and all their contacts to the authorities. But suspects do face a new ban on travel. And also the stop and search element of it will need more of a burden of proof for one to be stopped and searched under Section 44. The pre-charge detention drops from 28 days to 14, however can be extended to 28 days by the Home Secretary under exceptional circumstances, but again being criticised because the whole point of TPIMs is exceptional in the first place. The deportation of foreign suspects does continue, unfortunately, in this new system, and surveillance under the new Act will be extended. We've come to our second article here in the Times. £80 million will be funded to step up surveillance after the end of anti-terror controls.
Shh. The usual suspects.
In this final piece of this edition of The Usual Suspects, we look at one Usama Hasan, the part-time Imam Khatib at Masjid al-Tawheed Mosque in Leighton, East London, gave a lecture on the 22nd of January entitled Islam and Evolution, which was attended by a pro-Takfiri crowd. How naughty. During the lecture, a member of the audience asked Usama Hasan, did Adam alayhi salam come from apes? To which he replied that Adam alayhi salam's parents were nearly human. To which the audience erupted to calls of takfir, kafir, munafiq, murtad, and even shaitan. And I'm sure Usama Hasan at the time, under the siege of guerrilla warfare, would rather be at home with a hot bowl of Cocoa Pops watching Planet of the Apes. And that brings us nicely to the end of this edition of The Usual Suspects, with myself, Ibrahim Ali, producer Townsend, Earl Grey here, and our cake. And we'll see you soon in a fortnight's time with more media roundup and our final say in all The Usual Suspects.